Hello and welcome to a very sunny Portugal, where we're driving the brand new Volkswagen T-Roc. Now VW are incredibly excited about this car because the last one was a phenomenal success. They sold 2 million of them since 2017. So does this one fix some of the old car's problems, and is it a great car to buy if you're in the market for a small petrol or hybrid powered SUV? Let's find out. How dedicated am I to this job? We're going to stay outside for a little bit and just talk quickly about the new T-Roc's design, because it's very obviously a T-Roc, isn't it? But much sharper and much more contemporary. So the key bits are there as they were before. So we've got the option of a dual coloured roof and also that sort of hockey stick motif that runs up over the windows and towards the tailgate. But aside from that, things are much more contemporary. We've got these really snazzy looking headlights with the Volkswagen moustache headlight, daytime running light motif that is really popular, and a very glowy badge. Okay, whoa. So this is so much nicer than the old T-Roc. Everything looks fantastic, and actually it feels fantastic as well. So we've got some like nice soft touch plastic on top of the doors and across the dashboard as well. And on top of the dashboard over here, it's got a sort of fabric. And I was talking to one of the VW guys before, and they said it reminds them of sneaker fabric, and I totally get it. It's like a techie 3D knit sort of thing. The other thing as well is that it's very clear Volkswagen has been listening to its customers, because we have a steering wheel full of buttons rather than touch sensitive controls, which is excellent. And while there is still some sliders on the bottom of the screen, they are now illuminated and generally speaking work really well, because you're not forced to just use those bits. So for example, you still have a slider for the volume control, but you also get a very nifty thing down here called a volume knob. You can also program it to do other things like your drive modes and also the interior ambient lighting. Speaking of tech, that's another big step up for this new generation T-Roc, because we've got two big clear digital displays. There's a 13-inch touchscreen in the center console, which looks great, and then also a driver's display in front of the wheel as well. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto is standard across the range, and it goes with a wireless phone charger that sits here in the center console. Whilst we're here at the center console, you'll also notice that there's no gear selector anymore, and that's because it's up here on the column like they have done with the Tiguan, and that is a great space-saving choice. In terms of general practicality as well, things do look pretty good. We've got a really big bin down here with some adjustable cup holders, that sort of typical Volkswagen adjustable armrest, which is really handy, and also some pretty decent door pockets. And generally, space in here seems pretty good. In terms of the design, it's also probably worth mentioning this guy here is an R-line, which means everything is finished in a pretty dark and dour, sporty looking black. But you can actually change it up. You can get these bits here in a bright color, and also, I'm not sure if you can tell from that camera view, but we've got some perforations here which at night light up in various colors. So generally speaking, in terms of the interior presentation, way better than before. Let's start talking about what this car is like to drive. So in terms of powertrain, this car is actually based off the same MQB Evo platform as the Tiguan, which means that it's the same fundamental basis as like a Golf and that sort of thing, but it has a brand new sort of electrical architecture that drives all of its bits and bobs. That means initially we're going to get a range of 48-volt mild hybrid options. So that's a 1.5 litre four-cylinder and a new 2-litre four-cylinder with anywhere from around 130, 140 horsepower right up to 200. Beyond that, we also are then going to eventually have a full hybrid for the first time in a Volkswagen. Now that engine isn't coming until next year, but it should make this car even more efficient than it already is. Now the car we're driving here is the 48-volt mild hybrid 1.5 litre engine, and that has about 148 horsepower. It's not a firecracker of an engine, but this engine, as it is in all sorts of other things, feels two things. Very torquey, which means that it feels quite effortless, and also it's incredibly quiet and refined unless you're absolutely caning it somewhere. Visibility is excellent. I've got really good view up front, got great view outside the windows, mirrors are nice and large, and although the car does have a sort of sloping back roof, the rear window is pretty good as well. Now there's nothing fancy in terms of rearward camera, through the mirrors or anything like that. It just has a pretty standard sort of 360 camera system on higher spec models and just a rear camera on lower spec ones, but that works absolutely fine, and it really is super easy to sort of place around the road. Now all powertrains at this point that have a mild hybrid system are connected up to a 7-speed DSG transmission, and unlike previous ones, which could be a little bit jerky coming in and out, this one feels completely smooth and just really well calibrated once again with that mild hybrid system. Low speed ride, we've just gone over a very chunky speed hump there, and we're on 19-inch wheels here, which are one from the largest. It's actually really good. Now it definitely doesn't feel ultra smooth refinement. Now I'm driving down some pretty quiet roads at the moment, and they're not particularly fast, but I have to say, previously when I was driving this car on a motorway, and a pretty rough one at that, compared to other sort of compact SUVs, it's pretty good. Let's quickly talk about some of this car's foibles because there are one or two. First of all, we don't quite know how much it's going to cost in the UK yet, but we have a feeling that it's not going to be a bargain basement car. Fundamentally, because of this fantastic new interior, I don't think that's a problem. But compared to other cars at a similar price point, this car's practicality is probably going to become an issue. Fundamentally, there is a decent amount of space in here. It is not cramped, but if you're going to have 3 people in the second row fairly regularly, it is a little tight. Now, VW has acknowledged that they've sort of worked on the practicality a little bit. It's a little bit longer in the wheelbase, so it is better than the last one. And the boot is also 30 litres bigger as well. It's also perfectly versatile. You can throw that second row down with no problem and turn it into a little van if you need to. But compared to something that is probably going to be equivalently priced, stuff like, a Citroen C5 Aircross, they're fundamentally bigger cars, but they're not going to cost any more. And so if you need the pure space, that is where you might come into some issues. The flip side of that is that this car drives significantly better than any of those cars. It feels really well connected. The steering has got a lovely sort of Volkswagen directness to it, which I think is great. But also, even this sort of fairly lowly powered 48-volt mild hybrid version has, plenty of pick up and go. It feels really sort of crisp and responsive without being too sharp. And it just feels like VW have absolutely nailed how to make this sort of car drive exactly like a really well set up hatchback. Okay, quick verdict time. So, T-Roc, where does it sort of sit right now? Well, do you know what? I have been thoroughly impressed with this update. It is so much better than the original car, whereas previously I didn't quite understand why you would buy a T-Roc over a Golf. It just didn't really add up. This one definitely has new appeal, chiefly among which is the fantastic new interior and that new tech suite. Overall, I think VW has done a brilliant job. It's going to be a massive success.